Okay, guys, can we call to order the October 14th, 2024 regular meeting of the East Bethel City Council? Please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Make a motion to adopt tonight's agenda.
Second.
Motion is made and seconded to adopt our agenda. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None heard. Item 4 is presentations and public hearings. We have none. So we go right into item 5, which is the public forum. And we have one person signed up, and that's Ms. Tammy Gimple.
Mr. Mayor, if I can, I'd like to just read the rules and remind everyone of the rules for the public forum.
Okay?
Okay. Those who wish to address the city council must sign up to do so before the citizen input questions part of the meeting begins. They must be current residents of East Bethel, Minnesota, and should state their name and address before addressing their topic. The mayor will invite speakers to the podium, and they are asked to speak clearly into the microphone. The speakers are limited to 3 minutes to present their comments or questions. If there are multiple residents who wish to address the same topic, they should choose a spokesperson to speak for them. At its choice, City Council may simply listen to the comments or may engage in dialogue with the residents.
It'd been a long time since we read the rules, so we figured it was about time we did it again. So please, Tammy.
Tammy Gimple, 22359 Baton Street.
Yep.
I'm here because there was a Facebook post that had come out September 29th. And in the post, it was a private active 911. I think you guys just talked about that.
Yep. Yep.
And in that app, it said I was burning illegal garbage. And as troubling as that is, which it wasn't me burning garbage, is that the active 911 was posted. Mm-hmm. It's a private app. It's only for firefighters, first responders. And so in my research and data requests trying to find out what happened, it was clearly a campaign smear for me since I'm running for mayor. I found out that my opponent, Artie Anderson, still has the app. He still has the codes to get into the fire station. He's still part of an email group that the fire chief is still sending out. That is the same Artie Anderson that I had come to a council 3-ish years ago and had brought up that he was getting paid for calls that didn't exist. And subsequently, nothing was done with that. And I feel the same type of corruption is still continuing. I think that anyone here, those apps, I was on the fire department, it's a private app. It will say things in it that you probably don't want. If you have a medical call, you have something going on in your home, that some of them have door codes to get right into your garage so that they can get in because somebody's stuck somewhere. I would imagine nobody wants that app out on a public page. Campaign smear or not, you don't want that app out there. You don't want, that is a complete disconnect in trust between our fire department and the residents.
Yeah, that's why it was on our agenda tonight.
You don't need a policy to take that down. You don't need a policy to shut that app off. It's paid by the residents. You can shut it off right now. Those firefighters each have pagers. They don't have to have that app on their phone. There was no reason I'm standing here today and wondering why that hadn't been done yet. That should have been done immediately, absolutely immediately. The second thing I'd like to talk about is I see that it's on the bill today to pay for Capstone, and the report that they did. And I would like to, I wonder if anyone here is what it takes to table that. There's a lot in there
Well,
that,
it's interesting that you mentioned that. If I could answer your question, I think your implied question anyway, is I intended to request that we table the payment until the presentation is made to us, which is at the next city council meeting. He couldn't be here tonight, but he can be at the next meeting, the 28th. And so I said it doesn't make sense to pay him before he gives his presentation.
I appreciate that.
So we're on the same page with that one.
There's a lot of things in there, I don't know if, I'm assuming you guys got it and
Yeah,
read it. There's some very disturbing things about the fire department in there
yeah.
that need to be looked at. The leadership here is horrible. There are people that aren't qualified that are working that job right now. That fire chief is paid $120,000 a year. And to come to find out, we don't have really an emergency management plan in place, something that if something were to happen here, that it's not a prepared document right now. He's
Yeah.
been here 2 years, that's what he was hired for. And that should have changed. When I said this was a good old boys club years ago, that exists. That's what it is. There are very qualified fire chiefs out there that are qualified in that position, and he isn't it.
Okay.
The biggest thing that I saw in that report is 84% of the firefighters felt bullied. 84%.
Yeah.
They're already in a stressful situation and coming to help people on sometimes their absolute worst day of their life, and they're feeling bullied. And bullying comes from the top down. I want to read.
Well, Matt read the rules and it was 3 minutes and we're now about 8 minutes
You did
into it,
interrupt
so-
me once. I want to read
Oh,
one
yeah,
thing.
but it's
and
also been more than 3 minutes, so.
I've earned this. Give me
Well,
1 minute.
I'm
I want
I'm
my
just
phone.
reminding you of the rule, that's all.
This was in a email in my data request that I had pulled. I found a lot of stuff very disturbing. This was said from Fire Chief Rod Sano. It was on 9/11/23. At the fire department, Rod was at the station about to leave, and he said, I will be around if anyone needs anything. I'm going to the city hall to see those idiots. He was coming to a meeting to see those idiots.
It was reported to us by
It was
someone who-
reported to you in 23, and he still has a job.
Well, I mean, there's, you know,
Enough said.
there are procedures.
Thank you.
Yeah,
So,
okay, well,
just for clarification on the bill that was mentioned for Capstone, that's for Capstone LLC of
yeah, not
Jerry
the
Strike,
builders.
not
You got Max
Capstone
in there.
Development that we
Yeah, we're
also have,
canceling everything.
that we also have on our agenda tonight. I just wanted to,
Thanks for the clarification, yeah. They just happen to have the same name. That what the Capstone we're referring to is Jerry Strike's company. He's the one who did the operational audit of the East Bethel Fire Department, and he'll be at our next city council meeting to give us a report on it. Okay, well, thank you, Ms. Gimple. And after that, we move on to the item 6 on our agenda, which is the consent agenda. So we'll get a motion and a second, and then we can go
I move
discussion.
to, push the consent agenda.
1 second.
Okay, its motion's been made and seconded. So, discussion?
I have some questions on, I want to pull
Oh,
A.
yeah, we're not pulling them yet though, Jim.
Or not.
Pulling them after we.
No,
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 Pulling
we-
A.
we
So
pull-
I'll Pull A.
Pull it, I'll pull A.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
pull
Now's
right
the
now.
time to pull.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so A is getting pulled, that's the approved bills. We have questions about the bills because it's like $1.6 million this month, which I believe is the highest I've seen so far in 2 years, so. Anyway, so we're gonna pull item A. Anybody pulling anything else? If not,
Yeah, let me pull C. I just got a question. On
on the delinquent utility accounts?
yeah,
Okay, so we're pulling item A
A
and
and
item
C.
A and C. All right, all those in favor of approving the consent agenda, not including items A and C, say aye.
I,
Opposed, none heard. Okay. Approved bills list, item A. Jim?
Okay, I got page 6. I have some questions on escrow release to Lashinsky Septic Service for $10,314.
Yep, I can answer that.
Okay.
Whenever there's a non-compliant or failing septic system and there is the transfer of property, the city has an ordinance that obligates the seller of the property to provide an escrow to cover the cost of the repair of a septic system. Nowadays, septic systems are $10,000 to $12,000 to $14,000 depending on the requirements that come out of that. So once the septic system plan is submitted to the city, then between us, the contractor, Lashinsky, and the new homeowner, we coordinate a time where they can repair or replace the septic with the new one, and then that money gets released. That's the buyer's money that's sitting in a city account, gets released to Lashinsky to pay for his work
Okay.
as an obligation to make that house compliant prior to the sale of a home.
Okay, thank you. Then down a couple from there, the Minnesota Department of Labor and Industry, $11,541 state surcharges.
Yep, so every permit that we kick out that's connected to sewer and water or anything where the state has their hand in it, we collect that on the front end when they pay for a permit, and they send us a bill once a month for what they believe they're owed, and we give the state that surcharge.
Okay, all right, thanks. Then down a little farther, Hokinson and Anderson. I'm just curious, like, starting at the 3,517, all the other ones have department codes, but there's like 4 or 5 that don't? Is there a reason for that, or is that all like combined, or what?
Some of that may potentially be, I don't have the specifics. We've done 2 or 3 street projects that are city-based projects, but all of the other ones that have a code by them also come out of escrow. So for instance, if Capstone Homes has some engineering review, they pay back the empty escrow to cover the costs. So I think with the exception of that, the ones that don't have a code, those are probably city-based projects, but I can take a look really quick right here to confirm that.
Okay, cause like they add up to like $15,000. The ones without a code.
Yeah, so the first one on the list is architectural and engineering fees for the 183rd reconstruction project from Greenbrook to Layette Street for $540. Does that line up? That account code covers highway projects. There's one for Sims Road redevelopment, surface redevelopment improvement project, $5,337.50, which appears in that column somewhere.
A lot of those are under the roads and MSA portion for Hawkins.
So those are city projects?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, then page 7, first one, Met Council, $194,285. SAC. So what
Yep,
are these?
so this is what you're gonna see as homes start coming online. As you noticed, the Elevage development is going vertical. So for every plumbing permit that they pull, there's a SAC connection charge. That gets billed to the developer or per permit, and then we have to pay back the Met Council when they send us the bill.
So,
Pass through.
so then that money is collected
We collect
Prior
that
to
from the
this?
developer or the permit
Bef-
applicant.
before we pay Met
Before we,
Council?
before we pay the Met
Okay.
Council.
Like
Yep.
Matt just said, it's a pass-through.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
The
Then,
state, the state puts it all back on the local units of government to do their work for them.
okay, not surprised. Page 7, then the same thing, fire department, Rod Sano, 1,546.83, conference and meetings.
That is for the training, conferences that they went to off-site. That's for 5 rooms, I believe. And food, I'm just trying to get to it here. But that is a reimbursement for the cost to actually be there. So some of that we do get, we get paid back on the training portion of it,
Okay,
not
So
on
this
the,
is the
not on the
reward?
hotel and the food.
okay. Down on the fire department too, for professional services fees, Capstone LLC, 10 grand.
That's, yeah, that's Jerry Strike's
Okay,
contract
but-
that we're gonna,
We're not paying that yet until we meet with
that's,
him, right?
right, so you guys can pull that if you want. and-
Okay, yeah, because I don't want that paid until we have a discussion with him.
Yep.
Then I'm just curious on the fire department also, we have T-Mobile for $99, Verizon $560. So now are these cell phones that we're paying for?
Yes,
Really?
yeah.
How many?
Fire department phones, I would say you're probably a couple of phones for the $99.
Yeah.
And then the $58 would have been, the T-Mobile is Jer and Steve is
Yeah.
what they have on there.
I mean, Verizon $560, fire department, $560.
Yep, I see that down here too. Yep,
Is that, how many cell phones is that?
that's gonna be a number of them. I'm not exactly sure the total count. I can try and pull that up here.
Is there any way we can find out?
Yeah, I can find that here.
You can find it out and let us know.
I have the original documents here, just have to go through them.
I'm just curious, are, like those cell phones then for the fire department, are they using that for personal as well, or is that just strictly fire department? Do we know that?
I do not have that answer for you, but I can get that for you.
Okay. That's fine on that one.
Is that it, Jim?
Yeah, your turn.
Anybody else on item A?
Yeah. Let's say we table the capstone bill for 10,000 till the next meeting.
Second that.
Okay, you're making a motion to table that,
Table
payment of
it.
that bill?
Yep, not
You're
pay that one
seconding,
until
Tim
next
Miller
month
is
after we get,
seconding.
we get a report.
Okay. All in favor of tabling the payment of that, or holding off on the payment of the Capstone LLC bill until after the presentation on the 28th of October, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None heard. Is that all you had, Bob?
No,
Okay.
C.
No, you
Nope.
still need to
Oh, wait
vote
a
on
minute.
A.
Yeah, we're still on item A.
Oh, are we? Oh, that's all I got
Yeah,
an A.
I think I know what the answer is based on what Aaron's previous answer was. But under sewer operations, Met Council Environmental Services, $176,641. Why, let me ask something. Are we paying Met Council and then they pay the bondholders? Is there a pass-through through the Met Council to the municipal bondholders? Or is
That I
this
don't-
just a
that I
fee?
don't know.
This is just
I
based
think
on a
this
fee?
is just based on connection
A hookup
fees.
fee?
Yeah, right.
Okay, all right. Thank you. With that, I'll make a motion that we approve item A.
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None heard. Okay, Bob, you pulled item C.
Yeah, this is kind of troubling to me here. We have an awful lot of delinquencies, and they all seem to be coming out of the same area. And I'm wondering if there's a reason for that. Looking at this, it says Whispering Aspen residential customers, 102. Viking Preserve, 48%, or 48 residents, and non-residential customers, 33. That for some reason aren't paying the bill. Anybody got any idea why? And I guess I'd like to find out, is this something that, is it the same ones every year? Or is it kind of switch out, or is there, I mean, is it bad water, or what's? How do I find that out? Or do we find it out? Have Mike check into it?
Mike has all that information.
Well, I've got the amounts. I'm just trying to figure why is
Trying
it
to
all
figure out
coming out of
why-
one area?
Why they're delinquent?
Right.
Yeah, it's two questions. Why does it seem to be concentrated in the one area? And the other is it a one-time, one-offs, or is it repeated offenders, if however you want to put it? Repeat delinquents?
Because they're paying 18% interest.
That's 1.5% interest per month.
Yeah, one answer that I can give you when this has came up in previous years, that this is the first issue of this notice. And by the time we actually get to the next meeting to approve, this list has shrank.
Oh, well, all right, I don't
Surprised me,
know,
I
I'm just
never knew that one.
looking at numbers here.
So a lot of the numbers on top are people that just haven't paid for the previous month or something screwy that,
Well, yeah, those are low.
Yeah.
real low. It's the ones that are 1,400, 2,000, 2,900, 3,000. There's something going on
Well,
there.
then, well, maybe we should request that staff give us an update on this as soon as possible
Well, that's-
after the
that's something you guys-
date of the resolution.
Is
Yeah.
something the city bills, or do you,
Well,
you guys?
the resolution is just calling for the public hearing.
Right, for November
And also
13th,
to
yeah.
authorize a letter to go out. And once a letter goes
Right.
out, people, by and large, you get compliance at that point.
Yeah.
There's some that want it to go on their property taxes, most of them pay it.
Yeah, I'm just going on the record saying we'd like a report from the staff as soon after November 13th
Well, and again, if
to
there's
give
some
us an
reason why
update on
it's
how
all
it's
out of the
going.
same
Keep us-
area.
Keep
Right.
us surprised.
I mean, if it was all over the city, it'd be one thing, but
Well,
it's all in the same
You only
spot.
Well, I-
have two areas that have water. That's part of the reason why you only have them all coming out of one of the areas. The other parts of the city don't have water. You might have delinquent bills there, but they're not receiving services.
Yeah, but you got Greystone Trailer Park, that's serviced by sewer water, correct?
I believe they have a well.
just sewer. They have their
They
own
have their
well.
own well.
Yep. And they pay their own sewer.
Yeah, as a one-time payment or what you
And
call it.
then your other
not
water connection is
separately.
all industrial or business.
Alrighty,
Did you get the answers you wanted?
well, I will get them when staff
All right.
looks it up for me.
All right, so I'll make a motion, we approve item C.
Second.
Motion made and seconded, all in favor say aye.
Right.
Okay, that completes the consent agenda.
Mr. Mayor, if I can just go back to that T-Mobile bill, those are 2 phone numbers on the T-Mobile and 15 telephone lines on the Verizon.
Really.
So about $39 each for those, and on the T-Mobile, I think it's $49 a
Okay,
line,
thank you.
so.
Okay, with the consent agenda completed, brings us to item 7, new business, and item A, Planning Commission, conditional use permit for exterior storage for 23035 Ulysses Street Northeast, North Country Concrete. Mr. Berg, you're up and center.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. On September 9th, 2024, the city received an application from Carl Verkus, the owner of North Country Concrete Incorporated, who applied for a conditional use permit for exterior storage on a vacant parcel across Ulysses Street Northeast to the west of the existing business location. The vacant parcel is over 3 acres in size and is located in the northwest corner of 230th Lane Northeast and Ulysses Street Northeast in a light industrial zoning district. It borders a 17.50 acre single-family R1 residential parcel on the west lot line and 3 single-family R1 parcels of the Coopers Lake Estates subdivision on the north. Verkus is proposing the exterior storage of equipment, trucks, trailers, and associated business, things associated with the business across the street at 23035 Ulysses Street Northeast. He is proposing the construction of a 6-foot privacy fence with an entrance gate onto Ulysses Street and one onto the cul-de-sac at 230th Lane Northeast, with landscape boulevard areas with evergreens and bushes to match the existing landscaping at North Country Concrete location. Additionally, the proposal includes stripping and removing of topsoil and replacing with crushed asphalt millings to provide a positive drainage to the roads for watershed, as well as installing a drive-over curb and concrete approach and aprons at each gate location. There is not a building included in this proposal. However, Verkus indicated he would be constructing a building on this parcel someday. The first item I look at is how is the property zoned? This property is zoned light industrial, which allows for exterior storage, but it needs to be regulated by a conditional use permit. So then I move on to looking at the zoning code for exterior storage. Exterior storage in the light industrial district states that construction yards are exempt from exterior storage requirements as outlined in section 24, provided they are located in the rear yard behind the principal building and cannot exceed the square footage of the principal building and shall not be allowed within the required setbacks, public right-of-way, private easement, or within a required parking area. Under the current proposal, the exterior storage on a separate parcel without a principal building would not meet the conditions of city ordinance. So the next item I took a look at was potentially could that be designated as a parking lot or off-street parking. The purpose of off-street parking is to establish off-street parking standards to allow for orderly and adequate parking of vehicles on property to alleviate and prevent congestion from a public right-of-way and to control the appearance and maintenance of parking areas and surfaces. The regulations and requirements set forth in the off-street parking chapter shall apply to all off-street parking facilities in all zoning districts, so whether it's residential, business, or industrial. Then moving on to section 3, general provisions, item B, prohibited uses in required parking areas. Required off-street parking areas in all zones shall not be used for open storage of goods, recreational vehicles and or equipment, commercial vehicles and or equipment, licensed or inoperable vehicles or vehicles for display of sale. Also stated is that the design, construction, and maintenance of all parking facilities and streets are subject to City of East Bethel engineering standards. However, section 48 does identify that the council is allowed to permit other uses by this section approved by the Planning Commission as approved by the City Council. So moving on, that if this were allowed to be exterior storage or a parking lot, there are screening regulations that would be required by code. Any business, industrial, or non-residential use and a residential dwelling other than a detached single family adjacent to any residential district shall provide screening along the boundary of the residential property. Section 5, since the proposal talked about grading the lot, grading, filling, and excavating for the purposes of stormwater management, no land shall be developed and no use shall be allowed that results in water runoff causing flooding, erosion, or increased runoff on adjacent property. Such runoff shall be properly channeled into a watercourse, ditch, storm pond, or other appropriate facility subject to review and approval by the city engineer. On September 24th of 24, the Planning Commission held a public hearing which there was a neighbor residential property owner present. Her questions were related to property surveying and how the runoff water would be directed. After review of the application material, hearing from the neighbor as well as the applicant, the Planning Commission by a 5-to-1 vote recommended approval of a conditional use permit, and they added 3 conditions. The City Council should review the request, consider the Planning Commission's formal recommendation, and either approve with alternative conditions, or deny the conditional use permit for exterior storage on a vacant parcel. Additionally, if A conditional use permit is approved, an agreement must be fully executed by the owner prior to any work on the site, grading and/or construction.
Thank you, Aaron. Thoughts?
Aaron, are the three conditions from the planning commission included in the conditions before us?
They are, the approval resolution, R 2466, page 37. The three conditions spill on to page 38 that were recommendations from the planning commission.
Total
Okay.
of 10. How did it go from 3 conditions to 10?
Though the three conditions that they added, I
You already
required
had 7.
1 through 7 as a result of what our ordinance requires of them for
Okay.
a parking lot screener, exterior storage. The planning commission wanted 3 additional ones.
When I reviewed this, I had one question. Has North Country Concrete seen and approved or accepted the conditions A through J? Whether it's verbal, written, or whatever, but
The applicants were at the planning commission meeting when all the conditions were discussed, including the additional conditions.
did they indicate they would accept all the conditions?
Your applicant is here, he can certainly speak to that himself if
Just
you'd like.
yes or no, that's. None of them are a problem or anything?
Carl Herkus.
Yes, sir.
23035 Ulysses. Yeah, everything that was discussed that night was no issues.
Everything's acceptable?
Correct.
Okay, that's it, thank you.
What are the plans for that road in between?
If I remember correctly, our long-term future roads plan, this cul-de-sac makes a connection
231st, first lane,
and to the north.
well,
Because those are residents, correct?
These 3,
To the north and northwest?
yep, these 3, and then this parcel here is also residential. There's no house on it now. The one resident that spoke lives in this house.
So what kind of screening, I guess, are they anticipating on the east side? Or it'd be north?
on Ulysses Street, you mean?
On you, yeah, well, you got the cul-de-sac, and then you got the lot they want to use. Then you got residents to the north. You got the woods to the west. Is that gonna be screened off?
Yeah, we call all four sides are getting screened with the same thing as at North Country, the brown slots.
Okay. All right, it's a lot easier to ask now than,
Yep, yep. Any other questions, concerns, comments?
Councilmember Drosh, the pictures up here are existing screening on the site now. The screening doesn't actually match what is in our ordinance.
how does this all fit into our comp plan?
So if you look at the regulations in a light industrial district, it's really designated towards the exterior storage being associated with a building that's on the property, not an empty lot being used for storage. Back when the comp plan amendments were made, just storage on an exterior lot was somewhat zoned out. Forced to the rear of construction companies, not to exceed twice the floor print of the principal building. In my opinion, this would not be allowed by code. However, you, as the governing board, can approve a conditional use permit. There is an exception in conditional use for something that's approved by you and the planning commission, or recommendation from the planning commission and approval by you.
So we don't need a zoning text amendment to add this?
You do not. There's enough ambiguity in the conditional uses of light industrial that I think you could get away with approving it.
Was there a reason that it didn't go with an IUP instead?
Because exterior storage or parking are both requirements in the zoning code to be designated as conditional use and not interim use. They're called out specifically as conditional use.
All right.
Well, the planning commission certainly gave this strong consideration. They looked at it from every angle you could think of.
I know I was at the planning commission meeting that night, and North Country, they have a great operation going on over there, and they keep everything in order. And in my opinion, they're willing to work with the city, and businesses in our city is important to all of us, I believe.
Yep.
So these guys are good in my opinion, and they've done their homework and they've got a nice operation going.
Yeah,
Well,
so if approved, we most likely will require a site plan approval. So we're gonna wanna see how much material they plan on taking off-site, what they plan on doing for grading and drainage, all of those items. Those by code are required to be approved by the city engineer.
Well, Jim, why don't you make the motion to approve it?
I'll make a motion to approve resolution number 2024-66 for allow exterior storage at 23035 Ulysses Street Northeast, East Bethel. PIN number 32 34 23 34 0013.
Boy, you really got technical.
Wow, that's a mouthful.
Did I do okay there, Mr. Attorney?
Spot on.
Spot on, all right.
From now on,
Councilmember Smith, from now on, you're making all the motions.
and from now on, I'll write the resolutions a lot longer.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, the motion's made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None heard. There you go. Thank you. All right, that takes us to agenda item 8.0, department reports. Under community development, item A is number 1, final plat Viking Meadows. Aaron, you're up again.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Give me 1 second to find the location here for you in case Matt wants to bring that up, or we have any questions.
Yeah, I thought we pretty well hammered that out in the work session.
I think you did, but I just want to make sure, just in case. All right, on July 8th, 2024, the city received a final plat approval request for the redevelopment of the Viking Meadows Golf Course. This is a multi-phased, multi-year development plan with the first 47 single-family units included in the initial final plat application. Future phases will be platted as outlots and will be required final plat applications for each subsequent phase. Staff have reviewed the submission and concluded that the final plat complies with the preliminary plat, which was approved by Resolution R24-04 back on February 12th of 2024. City staff, Public Works Director, City Engineer, along with City Attorney, and along with the developers, employees, engineer, and attorney have worked through all city requirements, including but not limited to engineering plans, landscape plans, wetland review, wetland replacement plan, permitting, a robust developers agreement, along with covenants and declarations HOA document. The city has received the following approvals: an MPCA sewer extension approval, a Minnesota Department of Health water extension approval, the county engineer approval for the Viking Boulevard entrance. The county board has approved the ditch abandonment. A wetland replacement plan and an agreement to purchase wetland credits has been submitted. Any outstanding items identified on the city engineer's October 7th of 2024 review, titled Review Number 3, would be conditions of approval of the final plat and would not be released for filing until all of those items have been satisfied and approved by the city engineer. City staff recommend council review the final plat submission and consider approving the final plat as presented in Resolution 2024-70.
Thank you, Aaron. Questions, comments?
I was gonna say, I move to approve the Viking Meadows final plat.
I'll second.
Resolution 2024-70, approving the subdivision and final plat for Viking Meadows. Any other conversation, questions? Hearing none, motion's made and seconded, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none heard.
Nice job, Matt.
Okay. That moves us into agenda item 9. Any staff reports?
Mr. Mayor, I'll just give a couple of updates here. We currently have 2 applications or requests for applications out there right now, one for a building permit technician and one for a city planner position. That department, as you can well imagine, is shorthanded.
Yeah.
But we have currently 4 applicants right now that we're gonna be interviewing for the building permit technician, and we have yet to receive a city planner application that would be suitable.
Okay.
We've received 2, but some don't have driver's licenses, some
Yeah.
don't have experience. I mean, it's somewhat shocking.
Thanks, Matt. Excuse me.
Somewhat shocking. So anyways, we'll continue working on that. As you know, the city planner position would carry multiple hats. They'd be looking at ordinances, they'd be doing code enforcement, they would be
Yep.
even scanning some of the old documents that we have. I know when Sherry was scanning documents, she did it extensively and got through letter A. So, I mean, there is a significant amount to do, and this would help fill time in downtime for a person such as this. Anyways,
Yeah,
we will
yeah.
try and keep everyone updated on that, and if you know of anyone out there, looking for this type of position or having these type of skills, certainly send them our way. We would be happy to interview them. So that's on that front. I wanted to give you just a quick rundown on the conference I went to in Pittsburgh. I think overall it was a very good conference. There was a lot of interesting kind of classes on target-based budgeting was one that I found particularly interesting. Departments are given spending targets, and you spend 90% of that. The 10% left over is proposed for ideas. What good ideas do you have? It kind of establishes this hunger for continuous training, to analyze their processes and how to do it better. It's an interesting technique that's used out there right now. There was classes on building the bench, which precisely what we're just talking about. How do you do that? What sort of internship programs do you have? Do you attend college career fairs? They suggested going to some of these colleges and talking to the students, asking the teacher for 10 minutes, hey, this is a career you can have, and kind of helping direct the trajectory of some of these students. It's not really being done. I don't think kids grow up saying, man, I really want to work for government. I mean, it's just kind of, it's a difficult thing right now to find people. And then there's the retention once you have them in. There's a focus on retention. I think everyone's struggling with that. There needs to be learning and growth within a career. They have a 79-20-10 rule, 70%, 70-20-10. 70% is experiential learning on the job, 20% is learning with somebody, and 10% is book knowledge. So it's kind of keeping in that perspective is how a lot of people are coming into these positions. There's a huge focus on well-being, trauma, empathy, and mentorship, listening, things of this nature. I mean, these are very interesting classes that help to kind of help people understand. They were talking about Gen Z and what they wanted. They were talking about millennials. They were talking about Gen X, boomers. And the ultimate conclusion was that your organization is stronger with all the different generations. That certain ones bring certain skills to the table, and if you focus only on one, then you're missing out on the other one. So I think overall it was a very successful conference to go to in terms of kind of, these are things maybe you don't think about on a daily basis in this position, but it's something that you should think about when you're considering applications. What skills are they bringing to the table? What should we expect? If Gen Z was one of the interesting things here. Gen X is naturally skeptical. Boomers have experience in work and life, but may not be here long, you know, that type of thing.
That's because the younger ones know everything.
Right.
Thanks for that
Not in
reassuring
terms of
comment.
living, but in the position, they may not be there long, so you try and capitalize on those skills that
Yeah.
they have. Millennials, we assume that they're tech savvy, but they really aren't, they're tech dependent. And so
Yeah.
understanding how they kind of,
Yep.
are wired is an important thing. But anyways, it was really insightful and a good conference overall, so. But aside from that, I think, unless there are any questions, I think that concludes my report.
I think it's good to get outside the echo chamber at least once a year, out to a conference, interact with other people doing similar work. What are your problems? All that, make those connections. I think it's valuable.
What
I always found it valuable anyway.
Yeah, what I will tell you is with Sherry leaving, I chatted with her a little bit about, well, what do you use for programs? And she uses PermitWorks. Well, PermitWorks is on the way out. They are no longer supporting PermitWorks. So as a city, we're faced with, what are we going to replace this with? Civic Plus, who runs our website, has the ability to purchase permit modules, okay? So one of the things I went into this, there's a lot of vendors that come to these things, and one of the things I went in there, the goal was to find a vendor that has permit, software. With Sherry leaving, she has a lot of experience, right? A lot of historical knowledge just walked out the door. So how can we try and get that into a software program, seeing as we have to replace it anyways? How can we get that into a software program where a lot of that is already in this program? And that's what we'll try to be looking for, so that maybe the next person leaves, but at least it'll be locked into a software program that can benefit the next person coming
Yeah.
in, so, yeah.
Very good. So if that's it for staff reports, Nate, do you have anything? Okay, then council reports.
I got some, tonight in our work meeting, we discussed on the fire department and the security basically of it, and the 911 app and entrance to our buildings. And I want to make a motion to change the codes immediately, and in the motion to make sure that if you're not an active firefighter, you don't have access to the building or anything to do with the fire department unless you're accompanied by an active firefighter. And as far as the auxiliary, I feel they shouldn't have access either unless they're accompanied by an active person. And then, of course, the liaison for the fire department. But it's important because it seems like we have an open and shut door to a lot of people that are no longer there. And there's a lot of stuff in there and a lot of information in there that could be critical.
What is the role of the auxiliary? Are they
I believe
past
it's just
firefighters?
it's
Are they-
supportive to the active members of the fire department.
When I was on the fire
that's-
department in
that's why I see
Bethel,
it.
our auxiliary were our wives, and they put on the functions and stuff like that. I don't know what
Right.
East Bethel does. I don't know.
Tammy? What is the auxiliary by definition in East Bethel?
It is mainly the wives of some of the firefighters. They really haven't participated in a lot of the community stuff. What I found when I was on was they gifted the fire department something at the end of the year for Christmas. So that was really kind of it. I think, you would have to, even through the liaison, go and talk to them. I know they have their own spending and stuff. I know they actually got money from the fire department to start it out, and I think they used to help with the breakfast. So they probably help with the breakfast, but I don't know that they actually have a formal function that they do.
I guess I'm trying to make a correlation here. If they have keys and access to the fire department, if they're not active firefighters, why would they need that? And if, say, who knows, they wanna bring somebody in there and show them around, something happens, what is our insurance, do they cover that? If an ex-firefighter were to go on a call with someone and there was an accident, are they covered under our insurance? Or where's the liability with that?
Probably not. I want to finish my motion too, though, and add that the 911 app for all inactive firefighters is removed effective immediately also. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
For discussion, I was, that's why I was you can make your motion, I just wanted to know
Yep.
what an auxiliary is, because if they hold a real purpose with firefighters, or as a firefighter function, I don't wanna be belittling anybody, or, they do a lot of work, from what I know.
No, I understand they do that too, but actually, I mean, they shouldn't have access on their own. They should be with an active person. I understand what they do too, which is really good for us in the community. But still, having access to our buildings, I don't believe should be happening.
Would
Well,
be a
again,
liability
it's a,
issue.
it's a liability
You
management
bet.
question. That's
Something
what
could
it's
happen.
about. It's not about anything else. We have to control our liability.
Agree.
So a motion's been made and seconded. Anybody need any clarification about what we're,
Eric, are we on the up and up with this, or is there something?
City and the city council has the right to control access to buildings and especially public safety areas and facilities to the non-public, and just those on an as-needed basis. And that's the understanding that I have of Councilmember Smith's motion, and that is that access codes is to be available only to active fire personnel, and the 911 app is to only be available to active fire personnel, and those that may have access codes or the app, the codes to those facilities should immediately be changed, and those that have access should immediately be removed. That's what I heard on the basis of your motion.
Make one amendment, we have to make sure law enforcement can get in,
Right.
so
So,
somehow,
that's-
so you want
And-
to, you want to have it as active
lineup.
public safety personnel?
Active- Sure, yep.
Because that would encompass both police, fire,
lineup.
sheriff.
Alina,
Right,
Alina,
Alina, everybody,
EMTs.
sure.
Yeah, and Alina, so active public safety personnel.
Yes.
so
Do
do
I
we
need to-
have,
do I
do
need
we
to
have
change that
something? Well, I don't know.
You can take that as a friendly amendment, and then the second would incorporate that as a friendly
Okay.
amendment.
I'll do the friendly amendment, what Eric just said. Alina, sheriff.
Is this clean enough for us to vote on it then?
Yes.
Okay.
And I'll second that.
Okay.
So we have a motion and we have a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion as proposed and
aye,
amended
Aye.
and friendly amended?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None heard. So it was unanimous. Okay, well, with that, I'll entertain a motion to.
Well, I have one more thing I'd like to bring up and possibly discuss. Council recently received email to do a review of our city administrator, which is good. It was brought forth by the mayor with respondents of council and city employees, the city heads, for those reviews to be returned to the mayor via email. And all the past years I've been involved, this has been conducted by the city attorney for the, originally the city attorney would send the email out and receive it and compile it. And that was for anonymity for any respondents. And I would suggest that for any reviews that have not been received yet, that they be forwarded to the city attorney so that he can compile them. So, and I say that because this reduces any liability exposure to the city. And explaining that, for my knowledge, there's been 4 lawsuits against the city from former employees that have either fired or quit. And with having anonymity, this reduces any chance of any employee coming back to that may be fired or quit in the future, that they cannot go back to a review and said, well, I turned in this review and now 3 months later I get fired, or a hostile work environment was created because I turned in this review. And I'm just saying this in general, not questioning
No, that's fine. I'm glad you brought it up.
your seat, but that's just been the policy in the past. And
Yeah, I didn't know that. I've never been involved at all in any reviews of city administrator before.
okay,
And just so you know, only 1 review has come back
okay,
of those requested, so.
okay.
What do you guys think? Well, let me ask you, what do you think, Matt?
Well, Mr. Mayor and
You're
Council,
the one being reviewed, and what's your thought on it?
yeah, Mr. Mayor and Council, that's why I sent the email out with the 360 to everyone and said, send it to you, because I didn't want to see them
Right.
at that point.
And then what he says, 360, it's called Sigma 360, and it's a form to review personnel.
Yeah, I shouldn't be involved in that at all.
Well, I'm perfectly fine with it going to Aaron. It doesn't, I don't,
Well, I think that would eliminate any outside feedback saying, yeah, well, there's the mayor again picking out his buddy.
yeah, whatever.
You
I
know what I'm
saying?
saying? I mean, there's been a lot of that.
I mean, ultimately, you guys are the policymakers, so you decide. I serve at your pleasure, so.
In that
But-
case, I'll have a ribeye.
No, but I'm fine with it myself.
Yeah, but if, you know, the city attorney, if you want to involve him, that would be fine. I mean, I guess
What do you, go
the
ahead.
process would need to be defined, then he receives the 360s, and then what's the expectation to
Well, just basically take the names off them.
redact the names and send them off?
Mayor, City Council, our office has served that function for various cities and the city administrator. And it's akin to an outside, or if you have the in-house kind of HR. And we do have an HR paralegal, human resources, it's HR. And really, it's that individual who then compiles, redacts, basically scrubs and summarizes so that you get the quality information, but you're not able to essentially really determine who submitted that particular review. So the idea is to have a very thorough, fully disclosed, hopefully looked at, so that the employees know that they can give an honest, full scale,
Yeah.
as you've indicated, 360 review, but also know that their identity, who they are, is going to be anonymous. And so we're not doing that with me as the attorney. I'm handing that to, you know, a paralegal who has the experience, has done that many times, and then providing it
Right.
back to the mayor.
So we would be requesting that you resend it, since I have only gotten 1 anyway. Just resend it again, but instead of them being forwarded to me, they would go to Eric.
Okay.
And
And then, Mayor, if you could just
and
forward
Brian will
that
cover
one
the
on to me.
cost of your attorney's fees, so that's great.
If-
If
I
someone
could,
wants
I
to make
would.
that motion.
It's just a human resource cost, that's all.
So-
What were you saying, Eric?
So I was going to say that one review, if you could just forward on to my office, so
Okay,
that
fine.
employee
Yeah,
does not have to
that's fine.
redo that.
Do you want to,
Well, I don't know, maybe I won't name the person who it was.
No, you
so-
shouldn't.
So maybe they just want to have a chance to do it again, knowing
Fair
that
enough.
it's
That-
not going to me, it's going to you.
You know, I think actually there's merit in that, because who knows if that review, and I
Yeah.
don't want to prejudge it, but
No, I
I don't know if
think
that
Brian's got a
review
good
would
point.
change as a result of it coming to me.
Yep, I like it, so,
Do you want me to send it to you or to the person that it'll be processing it?
So send it to me and then I'll send it to that individual.
Okay.
So then the other suggestion I would have with this is to open it up to all city hall employees, not just the department heads.
well, I don't see the merit in that.
I don't know.
It's,
Yeah, I don't
well,
see the merit
it's
in
not
that.
just to department heads, it's to Carrie, to Mike, Aaron. I mean, it's not to Nick or Steve, it's to Nate, to Rod, I'm trying to think, and all the council members. It's just about everybody.
So, yeah.
Well, pretty
and-
much staff, and then anybody who isn't actual staff, I mean, otherwise you get into, somebody got a bone to pick.
Right.
That may
Well,
not,
it's just they're not dealing with him as in an administrator type fashion, whereas department heads and Carrie and people like that are.
well, they've got an opportunity, if they don't like Nate, they can complain against Nate. You know, we're talking
Well,
the
no
city
one
administrator
can
here.
complain about Nate. I mean, you're perfect, right? Pretty close. But no, I think the distribution of it was okay. That's just my opinion.
The only problem with that is then, again, people get the impression you're making all the decisions. Why aren't the rest of the council involved? Whether that's it or not, if it's, you fill them out, you send them all to you.
Well, no, we're gonna have them sent to
Yeah,
Eric.
well, now we are, right, but
That's why I like
that's
the
the
idea.
rationale,
No,
was
I
because if
agree.
you
That's why I
don't.
like the idea. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, so I agree. I agree. I don't want them coming to me.
So,
That being said, I move to adjourn.
Well, we have a motion to do this,
Oh,
or
Oh, it's an
are
actual
we all in
motion?
agreement?
do we need a motion or just
I thought we were
instructions?
Just consensus.
I don't
Just
know.
consensus.
We'll straighten it.
Consensus is sufficient.
Consensus is sufficient. Okay, then we can go to your motion of adjourning.
I'll
Right?
second it.
Motion made and
Absolutely.
seconded to adjourn this meeting. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None heard. Thank you for coming, folks.